Welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple, one of the foremost Devi temples in the world. The Divine Mother resides here in the form of Sri Rajarajeswari.
When devotees come to this temple, they are invited to participate in the puja in almost every possible way. There is no hesitation based on gender, caste, or creed. If that isn't enough, the devotees are encouraged to come inside the temple and interact with the deities by touching their feet. This isn't available at any other temples.
All who come here are permitted to do Abhishekam with their own hands. And that is a unique feature which you will not find, I dare say, in any Hindu temple in any part of the world. And this temple, following the lineage of my Guru, is accessible to both men and women.
The temple has always been about teaching and learning. It is often called the teaching temple. The mission of the temple is to propagate and explain Sanātana Dharma, Sri Vidya and Saiva Siddhanta.
Young children, especially growing in this country, should be exposed to our glorious culture.
I live in a part of the world in Rochester, New York, where I don't get much exposure to my culture. So every time I come to this temple, there's so much more that I learn about Sanātana Dharma, and there's so much exposure I get to it.
This temple actually has so many youth volunteering on every festival. It actually reaches out to the public and educates them.
Another source of inspiration for classes is the scientific and spiritual aspects of mantras and pujas. Almost all of our classes are now available online because one of the major objectives of SVTS learning is to reach people who are unable to come to the temple in person.
The temple is also known for providing freshly cooked food twice a day, 365 days of the year, at no cost to the devotees.
Within the last 20 years that we have been here, we found that we have run out of space. And we need to locate the Devi in a more permanent abode.
When you built a temple, especially the granite temple, that energy in the temple will be there lasting for thousands of years.
Rajagopuram temple, it's really, really important. It is for us. We need to save our scriptures. We need to save our spirituality.
There is an ardent following of Mahaperiyava, a Kanchi Peethadipati at a time, and he once stated that one of the best things you can do in your life is to help aid in building a temple. Nobody can build a temple on their own, but collectively it can get to that point much faster if everyone's willing to contribute.
There's no small contribution and a big contribution. Everybody should contribute to the best of their financial ability and make this a reality in our lifetime.
Sri Matre Namaha. Namaskaram, everyone. Welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanātana Dharma learning series, which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple Society, Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir of Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanandananda, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Pidabadi of Sri Vidya Temple. For more than 40 years, Ayya and Amma, Srimati Jnanamba, have opened their hearts and their home and the temple all devotees who wish to share in the worship of Divine Mother and take up the sacred path of Devi Upasana. Not only have they established the Sri Vidya Temple and helped it grow into an international center of learning and spirituality, Ayya has opened the gates of Sri Vidya by giving mantra diksha to hundreds of sincere seekers and has established more than 200 pidams throughout the world by bestowing empowered Sri Yantras on his students. Both Ayya and Amma have dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and spreading the knowledge of divine worship and the rich tradition of Saiva Bhakti. Through these learning series, Ayya continues to share his wealth and knowledge as he continues his dream of making learning accessible to all individuals. Just to highlight, the temple will be celebrating the Kartika Deepam on November 18 at 6 p.m. On this day, Lord Shiva is worshipped in his form of Sri Arjanala Giri of the holy mountain in Tirunamala. We kindly ask all visitors to register before visiting the temple and adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. A few housekeeping reminders before we begin today's session. Please use the question form to share any questions you might have pertaining to the content discussed. For those viewing our live stream, our question form can also be found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/AYM-lectures. Please note that there will be no yoga session today. At this time, we will hand it over to Ayya to begin our session.
Hamsa Siva Soham Hamsaha Hasaka Frame Hasakshamalavarayom Hasaum Sahakshamalavarayeem Sahau Swarupa Nirupana Hetave Swagurave Srimati Annapurneshwari Amba Sameda Sri Lakshmi Amrutanandanada Saraswati Mahabhattaraka Mama Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpajami Namaha. My humble pranams to my beloved Guruji of Devipuram, India. I prostrate before him and pray to him that he sit on my open heart lotus and speak through me. The session that was concluded last week or week before that, we looked at various aspects of the Navaratri festival, including the Yagna Mandapam and the deities contained and installed within and without. So today, we hope to continue that session in the form of questions and answers. So let us see what the questions are like today and continue with the session.
During Navaratri, when a Yagna Mandapam is installed, should we also leave a similar Naivedyam for the main deity every night?
Yes. The Yagna Mandapam is placed around the Homakundam in our temple so that the daily obligations during Navaratri can be fulfilled. And it has every connection with the deity that is installed in the sanctum. And just like every day during Nitya Puja, the Naivedyam has to be left in the night. Usually in any Shiva temple, there is a room called Palli, bedroom in crude language. The last puja in any Shiva temple is that the Devi and Shiva will be taken in procession. Pujas are done to them and they retire in the bedroom. And inside the Palli, milk is always kept and some fruits, so that if they desire, they could have them. It's like equating the human lifestyle to the divinities. So yes, every day that Naivedyam has to be placed in the sanctum. Next question.
In the Yagna Mandapam, the Vishnu Durga sits on a Vahenum. Does this Vahenum change every year or does it stay the same each year?
The Vishnu Durga sits on a Vahenum. Does this change every year or is it the same? Okay. In our temple, there is a unique feature that every Navaratri is conducted according to a theme that has been decided upon. So the theme could be Mahatiripura Sundari, or the theme could be Dasa Mahavidyaya as it was this year, and so on and so forth. So, depending on the theme, the deity that sits facing the Yagna Shala, the Yagna Kundam, the Vahanam is changed. Some years it is a Simham, a lion. Other years it is an elephant. Some years it is a Rishabham. Now this past year it was an elephant. Now the elephant Vahanam that you see on the slide depicts the elephant Vahanam of Indra, Airavadam. The unique feature about this Vahanam is that there is a yantra for this Vahanam, and that yantra has been made, worshipped, and fixed to the base of the yantra of this Vahanam. So, when you bring the Vahanam to the Yagna Mandapam, when the deity sits on him, on this Vahanam, that deity is considered to be alive. And therefore, Naivedyam, that is food offerings, are also made to him. Yes, the Vahanam can be different from year to year depending on the theme of the Navaratri. Next question.
You mentioned that the Naivedyam is offered to the Vahanam. What Naivedyam do we usually offer to the Vahanam, and does it change for each Vahanam?
Not necessarily. Just because, now let us say Simha Vahanam has been chosen for this year. Will the Simha eat fruit? Just because it's a meat eater, you can't offer the meat. Aha. But there are what are called substitutions. The substitution for meat is what? Let us say you have a jackfruit. The flesh of the jackfruit is supposed to be equal to meat. Especially the jackfruit, that if you can take the individual pieces out of it, if it is a Samya Murti, you can dip it in honey and offer it. the flesh of the jackfruit is considered to be the meat of a pig. So, representations, right? Piradinidhi, that is the term. So, in terms of that, you can offer what that animal or that whatever Vahenum that you have chosen for that year will eat. Elephant, of course, no problem. It will eat fruits. So will Rishabham. These things are offered like that. So you have to use your intelligence to decide on what kind of Naivedyam to give. And especially since we live so many thousands of miles away from India and Sri Lanka and other places, is it possible to get that particular Naivedyam that you desire to give to the Vahenum or to any other deity? For example, if it's an elephant, Kabitta Jambo Palasara Vakshidam, Kabitta Palam. What is Kabitta Palam? Wood apple. Balam Palam in Tamil. That has to be offered. And living away from India, it's not available at all times. Sometimes across the border from us, in Toronto, in Canada, some of the Tamil and Indian shops will carry the wood apple. And you will have difficulties bringing the wood apple across the border. So these difficulties are there. So planning ahead, months ahead, unlike in India, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Singapore, we have to plan months ahead to try and see whether we can get particular articles or items for that festival in time. Sometimes we can find wood apple in Toronto. Now, those days we could not find jackfruit in Rochester. Now it is being sold, it is available. So you see, you have to choose intelligently what you are going to do, and you have to plan ahead for these things. Next question.
Can the Naivedyam that's being offered to the Vahenum be consumed by us as prasadam? Or should it
Definitely. It can be consumed by human beings. Because the Vahenum, Airavadam, is of the other realm. It's from Devalokam, from Indra's Rajadhani, Indra's capital. That Rajadhani is called Amaravati. So, because the elephant also, the Airavadam, Vahenum also is of that realm, you can consume that Naivedyam that is offered. No problem. Next question.
What is a Saumya Murti? What is a Saumya Murti?
A Saumya Murti, Sri Vidyam Shantamurtim Sakala Suranudam Sarva Sampat Pradatrim. Sri Vidyam Shantamurtim. Some of the murtis, some of the deities are fierce. For instance, Durga is fierce. Kali is fierce. Pratyangira is fierce. Vanadurga is fierce. Sulini Durga is fierce. Sarabeshwara is fierce. But Rajarajeswari, Sri Vidyam Shantamurtim. She is peaceful. So some murtis, some deities are fierce, some deities are calm. The fierce murtis are if your intention is to destroy certain things like evil, Graha Dosham, the shortcomings caused by the planetary positions, either collectively as a community or as individuals. So sometimes you have to use, Pratyangira is used for those purposes. Graha Dosham, Abhichara Dosham. So Saumya Murti is a Murti that is peaceful. Next question.
At times we notice that in the Simha Vahenum, in the lion Vahenum, there's Jaggery stuck inside the mouth of the Vahenum. Why is that there?
When we have the Simha Vahanam, and if you consider the Vahanams that are in the temple, that Simha Vahanam is made of rosewood. And it was the first Vahanam that I brought to the temple from Tamil Nadu. I had gone to a particular town somewhere in Pondicherry. And I visited a school of sculpting. And this Vahanam was there. And since ours is a Devi temple, Simha Vahini, Srimat Simha Asana Eshwari, Srimat Simha Asana Eshwari, Srimat Simhasana Eshwari, she is supposed to be seated on a lion. There are two meanings. Simhasanam also can mean a throne, a lion throne, which is the traditional form of giving a seat to a king. She is not just a king, a queen, she is an empress of emperors, Rajarajeswari. So I inquired, you just don't go and pick any Vahanam, because these days, the Vahanams that are made in India, for one thing, they are not the same, they don't have the same workmanship that they had 50 years ago. I'm sorry to say. You go to a place like Giri Trading in Chennai and walk up. They have a row of Vahanams. All of them are ugly. I think the Devi played a joke on me. She taught me architecture. And in architecture school, the first 2-3 years, you are taught to appreciate scale, color combinations, shades, the shading of a building, perspectives, bird's eye views, elevations, sections. So when you look at something, your eye is trained to pick up the scale, the color, how it is made, whether the workmanship is proper, whether it is crude. Unfortunately, all the Vahanams I have seen in Giri Trading are crude. This lion Vahanam that we had was sculpted by the teacher as a piece to show the people. And I asked him, what wood is this? The lion is made from rosewood, which is a traditional wood that you employ. The other types of wood are Karangali, what is Karangali? Ebony, or teak, or speckled satin. It's called flowered satin, flower satin. Like that, or jackfruit, or mango tree, like that you have. If you don't know what particular tree or what particular type of tree to use for anything, there is a formula. What is the formula? Pancha taru. Pancha, 5. Taru means tree. So what is this pancha taru? If you cannot decide what to do, you choose one of these 5. Al, Vel, Arasu, Ma, Pala. Al, banyan tree. Vel, neem tree. Al, Vel, neem tree. Ma, mango tree. Pala, jackfruit tree. Arasu, people tree. You can make it out of one of these. Okay. But this particular Vahanam is made from rosewood. So we brought it. And the Simham is made in such a way that the fellow's mouth is open. If you had noticed, if your powers of observation were that sharp, you would have noticed that the Rishabham, the bull that we have in the temple, the Rishabha Vahanam and the Gaja Vahanam, don't have their mouths open. If they had their mouths open, we would put a piece of candy or what you call that, a Jaggery in his mouth and leave it. This Jaggery is offered to him, offered to the Simham, if he is the main Vahanam for that Navaratri. And during the Dwajarohanam, when the flag is raised, he is offered this candy. And after that, every day during midday puja, when the pujari is performing the Dwaja puja, before that he will offer the Naivedyam to that animal. Okay? So it is convenience. The fellow's mouth is open, so you can put it inside. That's all. Next question.
In one of the previous lectures, you mentioned that the 4 Nandis that surround the Yagna Mandapam are to help contain the energy. So is there a reason that we do this for the Yagna or for the Yagna Mandapam?
Why do you want to do this for the Yagna Mandapam? Because in the 9 days that you perform puja, 9 days or 10 days that you perform puja, in the Yagna Mandapam, if we can please go to a plan of the Yagna Mandapam for this year, if we can bring that slide up, please. The Yagna Mandapam, the main focus is the Tripura Sundari Devi that is in the western corner, where you see the red dot in the middle of the opening, where it says Samaveda, and just to the Agni side of that Samaveda, there's a red dot. The big red dot inside the Yagna, that is Maha Tripura Sundari. That is the focus. All the energies inside the Yagna Mandapam, all the individual deities in this year. For example, Dasa Mahavidyas. All the worship that is done focuses on that central kalasam, and the energy needs to be taken there and preserved for the 9 or 10 days. If you leave the Nandis out of the entrances on the 4 sides, the energy will dissipate. You see, the energy will slowly dissipate. So you want to keep the energy so that all the devotees who come after the 9 days, on the 10th day when they come, when the Kalasa Udvasanam takes place and Abhishekam is done to the main deity, they get a share of it. You don't want to dissipate that energy after focusing and using 3 hours, 4 hours. Now you see the Nandis are there. All 4 entrances have the same Nandi, same type of Nandi in all places. Besides, apart from everything else, remember I told you I was trained as an architect? It looks beautiful, that's why. And these Nandis are worshipped. Bali is given after the main homam. Bali is given at the cardinal points of the compass, and they receive the Bali also. So that's the reason why the Nandis are placed there. Okay? Form, I was explaining today to somebody. In architecture, the principle is form follows function. The functionality of the Nandis is that they must keep the energy inside. And the form of the Yagna Mandapam, when you walk around it, it is beautiful to look at. All 4 sides, you see gold-colored Nandis sitting and facing the entrances. So, form follows function. That is why the Nandis are kept there. Other questions?
Can we also keep the Nandis around our Sri Chakrams at home to keep the energy contained, or is that not a good idea?
That's not a good idea. Because in the house, the whole idea of doing the puja is so that the energy will dissipate and enter the children, the wife, or the husband, or the in-laws, or anybody living in that house. You don't want to contain it in the center like that. This is a public place. And all kinds of people walk in, especially after the flag has gone up and some of the deities that are in the temple that are charged with protecting a Shivalayam are restrained in the Dwajastambha. You see? So it is important that we maintain that energy at least for those 9 days. And that's the reason why it is used here. Next question, ma'am.
The Bali Pitams that were in the picture with the Nandi, is there a reason that they're placed at the back? Can they be placed in front? Why are there?
They can. There are 28 Shiva Agamas. The word Agama means Shiva spoke and the Devi listened. So all 28 Agamas were taught to the Devi by Swami. In this 28 Agamas, there are several. Suprabheda Agama, Ratnakara Agama, Uttarakamiga Agama, Kamiga Agama. Like that, there are different Agamas. Each one details how a Shivalayam should be constructed, what are the scales, what kind of deities should be there. All the details are in these things. And one of the Agamas, if you choose, now what we have used is Kamiga Agama, Uttarakamiga Agama. Uttarakamiga Agama says that the Nandi should be in front and the Bali Pitam should be in the back of it. Okay. Now, if you look at our main temple, there's Nandi, and then there is the Bali Pitam, then there is the Dwajastambam, right? In that order. That is according to one Agama. You can also position the Bali Pitam, first the Dwajastambam, then the Bali Pitam, then Nandi. You see, it depends on what you subscribe to. So here, it is depicted as it is in the Uttarakamiga Agama. The Nandi is placed in the back. In some temples, very rarely, of course, you will see the Bali Pitam in front of the Nandi. Okay, next question.
Why do we not perform Dwaja Puja on Vijayadasami day?
Why do we not do the Dwaja Puja on Vijayadasami day? Okay. I think you should also display the question so that the audience listening in other places, other cities can read it and understand what it is. Why do we not perform Dwaja Puja on Vijayadasami day? Now, once Ghatastavanam, what is Ghatastavanam? The kalasams that are in the Yagnashala and outside the Yagnashala, on the day Navaratri begins, they are to be installed. That is Ghatastavanam, first day of Navaratri. But in our temple, following the tradition followed in the Chotanikara temple and other Bhagavati temples in Kerala, in Malayalam, Dwajarohanam takes place 8 days before, so that we can give balis to all the Bhairava deities that are there, the Ashta Bhairava Murtis. One, every day there is Dasadikbala Bali, and there is also Bhairava Bali, Kshetra Bala Bali every day. Each day is for one. Kala, Kapala, Kalpanda, Krodana, Ugra, Unmatta, Chanda, Samhara, right? 8 of them. These Bhairavas have to be propitiated. So for 8 days before the Ghatastapanam, this is done. Once the Ghatastapanam happens, every day Kshetra Bala Bali and Digdevada Bali is given. And a relationship now exists between the Pradhana Kalasam. If we can go back to the plan of the Yagna Mandapam, please, once more, so that they understand what I am talking about. Can we go back to the slide? Anyway, a relationship is now established, a connection is established between the Pradhana Kalasam and the Dwajastambam. So the energies that we are collecting or putting or increasing in the Pradhana Kalasam, which contains, see the Devi that you see they are seated, she is actually made of 3 kalasams, one on top of the other. The first kalasam contains water. Second kalasam contains akshatas. Third kalasam behind her head contains honey. Now, this kalasam is the most important one during the festival. All the other kalasams are subsidiary to this one. Similarly, see the relationship. Now, these are different arrangements of the Devi that we have done over the years. This year she was seated. All these years she was standing. Now, this kalasam, on Vijayadashami day, it is removed from the Yagna Mandapam. That's the Pradhana Kalasam is now said to be removed from that place. It is a ritual called Udvasanam. Udvasanam of the Pradhana Kalasam. Once the Udvasanam has been done, that connection between the Dwajastambam and the Pradhana Kalasam is broken. So now you don't need to give the bali. Look at this. This is the way she was made. See, there are 3 kalasams. The top one contains honey. The second one contains akshatas. And the third one contains water that has been magnetized. So this is how we end up not doing the Dwajastamba Puja on Vijayadashami day. And on Vijayadashami day, the Devi is supposed to come out of the temple and she mounts a chariot and goes around the temple. So from that day, there is no Dwajastamba Puja. You don't have to give the bali. On the last day, you give Buddha bali and Digdevata bali. And Bhairava bali, of course. Next question, please.
If we have more than one Dwajam at a temple for different deities, do we have to do Dwaja Arohanam on special festivals for those specific deities?
Absolutely. If you have a Dwajam in front of Shiva, if you have a Dwajam in front of Shanmukha, if you have a Dwajam in front of Ganapati, all of those, if you have the Dwajastambam, you have to do it. So on Ganesh Chaturthi, there is a ceremony or a festival called Ganapati Navaratras. During that time, you have to do it. For Shivaratri or Kartika Deepam, there's a 10-day festival in Tiruvannamalai, you have to do that. Or for Shivaratri, you have to raise the flag. So you will be increasing your workload, especially in a volunteer-run temple. That would be nearly impossible. Already, with all the festivals that we run, the volunteer pool is stretched to the limit, to breaking point. So we have to be careful how to do and what to do. Even in the new temple, the Dwajastambams will not be there on the subsidiary deities or Parivara Devatas, it won't be there. Next question.
Can women perform Dwaja Arohanam or Avarohana Puja?
Can women perform Dwaja Arohanam and Avarohana Puja? It is like asking me a question, can a man carry a baby to completion and deliver the baby? If you say the answer is not possible, then you have to understand that this puja cannot be performed by women. Other pujas, yes, but there are some duties that they cannot perform. This is one of them. It's exactly like this. Can you, of course, these days, they will implant a artificially made uterus in a man, and there are stories about 2 or 3 of them delivering the child by C-section, right? This is not like that. This is nature. In nature, a man cannot carry a child. However he might try, he cannot. That is reserved only for the feminine side of nature. Right? You can have, what do you call that? Women's liberation and all those political things. Don't bring that here. It doesn't work in a temple. Especially this puja. Next question.
During Navaratri, all our granthis open up. What should one focus on or actively practice during Navaratri?
On the Sahasrara, on the 1,000-petal lotus at the top of your head, that should be your focus. And whatever mantras that you are chanting, either in Samputi or whatever, if you can chant it with the Samputi of your Guru Padaka mantra, it will work wonders during that time. Only when the granthis are open, all of them are open. First granthi is open at the 3rd day, second is on the 6th day, and the third one is on the 9th day. Maha Navami Ashtame Sandhi, that joint, that time. Then you perform japa. Next question.
Why is it that Suhasinis are the only ones who can perform Palika Puja?
It is because Swasinis are the only ones who can carry a child. That Palika Puja is a fertility ritual. The fertilization, the fertility ritual is the seeds are planted on the earth, on Mother Earth, and she produces children. The plants, the vegetables that grow from there are her kids. So only married women can do that. Of course, these days you find unmarried women giving birth, or they adopt a child, or even people of the same gender living together, they can adopt a child. These are things that are not in accordance with nature. I'm sorry to say, but that's the truth. So a fertility puja, like a Palika puja, is to be performed by Swasinis. Mind you, they don't say Sumangalis. There's a difference between the word Swasini and the word Sumangali. A Swasini is a woman who is not a virgin. A Sumangali is one who is living with a husband. So only Swasinis are allowed. Remember. Next question.
Are the Shodasa Lakshmis and the Nitya Kala Devis the same?
Are the Shodasa Kala Lakshmis and the Nitya Devis the same? In the mapping of the Sri Yantram, the Shodasa, the Nitya Kala Devis are in the outer 16-petal lotus, and also outside the triangle, the central triangle. We spoke about this before. Outside the central triangle in the Sri Yantram, there is supposed to be a Mahapatmadavi Samstha. One who lives in Mahapatmadavi. Padma is lotus. A forest of lotuses, she lives there. So the Nityakala Devis are there around it. 5, 5, 5. And in the center, Mahanitya is there. Mahanitya is Tripur. Now, in the Shodasa Tala Padmam, 16-petal lotus, you can map the 16 Nityakala Devis and you can map the 16 Shodasa Lakshmis. Because if you listen to the Mantrottarana that was chanted for the Nityakala Devi Puja, Sri Sukta Samstudam Akara Prakritika Shodasa Kalatmikam Kameshwari Swarupinim. Right? And it was, you can map both of them onto the same thing. You understand? Because the number 16 is very auspicious for the Devi. So you can install the Shodasa Lakshmis like we did this time in the Kalasa Sthapanam and in an anti-clockwise manner. If you look at the triangle that is there, You will see the numbering there. You will find in the northeastern quadrant, Ishanya quadrant, number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are there in that quadrant. Then 5, 6, 7, and 8 are in the Vayu quadrant. And 9, 10, 11, and 12 are in the Nairudik quadrant. And in the Agni quadrant, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are there. So they are anti-clockwise. I have seen in temples, people without any idea of what Sri Vidya is, install the kalasams in a clockwise fashion. The mantra says, Devyaha Prishtadalam or Devyaha Purvadalam. This Devi, that red dot that you say in the center, Purvadalam, eastern side, she is facing the east. So the petal that is facing east, in the petal, in the Sri Yantram, she stays there. Purvadalam Vama Vartena, anti-clockwise direction. Of the Devis. So it is possible to install and invoke the Nityakala Devis and the Shodasa Lakshmis at the same time. Okay, next question.
This year during Navaratri, we chanted the Shodasa Lakshmi Sri Sukta Puja. What's the significance of that Sri Sukta Puja?
The Shodasa Lakshmi Sri Sukta Puja, this Sri Suktam, the mantra Srim Hiranyavarnam Haranim Kae Ilahrim Suvarna Rajasvajam Hasakahalahrim Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim Jataveto Mamavaha Srim or Sakalahrim. Right? This one was started by a gentleman by the name of Vidyaranya. This Puja Vidhanam is according to what he wrote. So that is how we have chosen that. We don't, you know that we don't just arbitrarily pick something and say, okay, this year we will do this. A certain amount of research is conducted. 3 months, 4 months, 5 months before Navaratri, we are seated there with books referring to this one, that one, finding out whether this can be done, that can be done. And if there is acceptance in the scriptures, we will choose it. That is how it was chosen this year. Besides, in our temple, there has been for the last 1 year or 1.5 years, a mandala homam. It started out as a mandalam. One mandalam, according to some, is 45 days. According to some, it is 41 days. We thought we will do one mandalam of Ganapati homam, Navagraha homam, and Lakshmi homam. Moola mantra homam for the Lakshmi. Then the people liked it, what was being done. So they decided to continue. Now it has been 1 year and some months. This Lakshmi homam and Ganapati homam and Navagraha homam is being done every day. So that is the reason. We don't just pick something arbitrarily and then continue it. We know that it is authentic and that it will give benefit to all the people who are present. Next question.
Is there a reason why one of the Dwara Kalashas had an orange on top of it and the other side had a pomegranate? Do they emit or absorb different types of energies?
Can you bring the slide up so that people will understand what you're saying?
Sure. I think it's still loading.
One of the Dwara Kalashas had an orange on the other side as a pomegranate. Do they emit, absorb different types of energies? Can you please show the photograph of the entrance with the 2 Kalashams, any of them, so that the people listening or watching, acha. See, halfway up the thing, there is a Kalasham. There is one on the left and there is one on the right. The one on the left is a pomegranate. What is the pomegranate? What does the pomegranate represent? Pomegranate represents Puranatvam, completeness. So if you put a coconut, the cheapest Puranatvam that you can find is a coconut. Any part of India you go, you can get one. In the north, it's called Nariyal. Right? When you take that, if you go to Andhra, it is called Kobaraka. In Tamil Nadu, you call it Tengai. Right? The actual way of putting a kalasam with the Tengai is that you cannot take the husk out. It has to be with the whole stuff that is there. That is how you have to install it. For convenience sake, we take the husk out. So it is not Puranam now. Part of it is removed. Okay. But in a pomegranate, everything is intact. And besides, pomegranate is the only one that is mentioned in the Sahasrara. Dadimi kusuma prabha. Dadima palam is pomegranate. So the pomegranate represents the Devi. This is the eastern entrance. So the pomegranate represents Sulini Durga, Pratingara. Om Hrim Sham Pakshat Jwala Jigve Karala Damshe Pratingre Sham Hrim Hum Pat. The right one, the left one, where you see the orange. Orange contains what is called citrine. Inside the orange, there is ascorbic acid and citric acid. Both of them are there. When you chant eastern entrance, what is the mantra? Agnimu ile purohidam yakchas sarutvijam hota aram rattadatamam harihi om harihi om harihi om Veda. This is the Rig Vedam. When you chant it like that, whatever shortcomings that are there in that area of the front entrance, the eastern entrance, you pull it and keep it. On the surface, there is also a chemical known as limonene. In Sinhalese, it is called pangiri. And after the end of the puja, that is taken and disposed of. The pomegranate can be consumed. And because the Vedic mantras are the ones that are being chanted on the orange, that also can be eaten. See? That is the reason why these two things are there. See, like I told you, we don't just arbitrarily place something there. These things were researched exhaustively before we place them in those locations. Next question.
Why is the Dwajam inside the sanctum? Is that always the case?
Not really, not inside the sanctum. Like I told you before, if you had been listening to the previous lectures, when I built this temple, I had to make sure that the ordinary Joe on the street, who has absolutely no idea of what rituals that are going on in the temple, what mantras, what agamas, what Vedas, what tantras are being used, he has no idea. All they know is there's some attractive power pulling them into the temple, they come there. And when they see the pujas being performed and performed to music or performed to a particular pitch, the attraction and the reverence grows within them without their knowledge. Okay. How many temples have you gone to that play the Shruti on the system so that the pujaris can chant to the Shruti? If the pujari does not have any sense of Shruti now, that is not our fault. Whether they know the Shruti, whether they can chant to Shruti or not, they'll blast the Shruti and chant to some other pitch. In that case, poor Swami has to endure it. But if it blends perfectly with it, there's nothing more enjoyable than the sound inside the temple. Now, our temple, the sanctum is the place where all the deities are kept. Right? And it does not conform to any agama. Please remember that. Ours is not built according to Agamic principles. I have used several tantras to build this temple. The placement of, let us say, one deity, Kurukulla Devi. You won't find that in any temple in South India. Any temple, I'll guarantee you. She's not present. But she was researched and we decided that we should have a Kurukulla Devi because the two Upanishads, one of the Upanishads that we do, you know, Tripuratapani Upanishad, Tripura Upanishad, Tripuratapani Upanishad, and Bhavana Upanishad. Bhavana Upanishad says, Kurukulla Bali Devata Mata. So where the Bali Devata, there she's looking at the Balipitam from there. That is a unique feature in our temple. So now, when queue public walks into the temple and they're not used to seeing that deity there, if they come and say, Ayya, what is this? Then I get the opportunity to explain to them what the Kurukulla Devi means, why she is there. So like I told you, we have several places where the Agamic system intersects with Sri Vidya and Tantra. Like I told you before, Sri Vidya is a strictly private sadhana. It is not for public. So I had to find places of intersection where both of these systems will coincide, where both of them will cross each other. In Guruji's temple, in Devapuram, that does not confirm to anything, whether it is Tantra or this. He used it. He built the temple exclusively out of his meditational experiences. The Devi guided him at every stop, how to make this murti, how to place her there, at what height to place her. All of them, he followed what the Devi told him in meditation. Now, in the United States of America, when I build a temple, I cannot keep it exclusively for Sri Vidya Upasakas. Is it possible? No. How many of them? There are 500,000 Tamils from Sri Lanka inside the neighboring country that is to the north of me. When they come to the temple, why do they have to drive 4 hours to come? There are 45 temples in Toronto, in the GTA area. Why don't they go there? Why is it that during summer months they come and flock to this place? It's because there is an unspoken attraction to this temple. She pulls them. So the Dwajastambam, one of the principles here is one intersection point now, I'm going to tell you. It tells you that when you look at the deity from the entrance of the temple, you should not see the Mula Murti. That you have to go to a side to see. You can't walk in like a soldier thinking, okay, I'm going there. That's one reason why the deity, the Dwajastambam is inside the temple. Here it is. See, can you see the main deity? You can't. Subsidiary deities you can see on each side, they are there. Is the Shivalingam on the left side? Looks like it. I think it's a mirror image. Okay, so that's the reason why it is placed inside. Besides, when I decided that we should have a flagpole, because we can do Brahmotsavams then, because only if the Dwajarohanam is done, you can perform 10 days of puja. You have to perform 10 days of puja, Utsavam. The height of the Dwajastambam, in our case, was determined by the height of the ceiling of the pole barn that houses the temple. So I gave exact directions and dimensions to my Sthapati, and he made this one. And it fulfills the requirement. You can't see the deity from outside. You have to come inside to see her. Okay, next question.
What's the difference between an Agamic and Tantrik Dwajam? And are there any differences in the rituals that we perform?
What is the difference between an Agamic and Tantrik Dwajam? What are the differences in the rituals? If you look at the Dwajastambam, can we have a picture of the Dwajastambam alone without any other decoration so that the audience can see it? There you go. Now look at the bottom part. That is a square. It's a cube, actually. Then followed by a 8-petal lotus, followed by a parangikai, a circular portion like a fruit, like a, what do you call that, a melon, or what do you call that, pumpkin. Then above that, you find rings. Those rings are supposed to be, each ring represents a bone in your spinal column. So in this, obviously, there are no 30-odd things. Then you find a chaturasram, the square that you see there. And above that, an area that is depicting the backbone of the devotee or the yogi who is standing. And on top, there are 3 strands of the flag. Those 3 are called Mekalai. The one on top is called Rudra Mekalai. In the middle, it is called Vishnu Mekalai. And the bottom one is called Brahma Mekalai. Okay. Now, in an Agamic temple, the decorations of the Dwajam take place above the square. Now, if you can go back to, go to the banner on the Dwajam, there are slides that we have that will show you the banner, the Dwajastambam from all angles. There. See, west face, south face, east face, and north face. Each of those things. Now, you will see, because this temple is a Shakti Pradhana Shivalayam, that means the mother's energy dominates. You will find a Trisulam on top. If you look at the east face, you will see that. From the square upwards is where you can decorate in an Agamic temple. In our temple, from top to bottom, she is decorated. And there is a lotus. Now, below the lotus, there is a ring, and below that is the parangikai, the pumpkin. Now, this time, after 23 years of existence, I have been instructed that we have to do Abhishekam to that parangikai from this point onwards. So we have to make arrangements next year so that we can do Abhishekam. What we do this time, is we wash the 8-petal lotus with water, depicting the feet of the deity. We wash it. From next year, you have to do Abhishekam to it. So we have to drain it, make sure that the milk does not, collect somewhere and stink after some time. So those arrangements have to be made. So here is another intersection between Agama and Tantra. There are subtle differences that are there. Of course, in Agama, you cannot move this side or that side, because once you subscribe to certain Agamic principles, you are in a straitjacket. You cannot move. Tantra gives you a little bit of space to move here and move there. Next question. And last. Hello. What happened? Have you lost the connection?
No, sorry. So the next question is about Dasa Mahavidyaya. Would you like us to start that for today, or do you want to go into that next time?
You tell me the question, then I'll decide I can answer it now or not.
Okay. Are there certain personality types better suited to the sadhana of a particular Dasa Mahavidyaya? If so, is that predetermined and or determined by one's guru?
Certain personality types are better suited for the sadhana of a particular Dasa Mahavidyaya. What comes to my mind is Chinnamasta. All the guts and blood and gory, it appeals to some people. Say it is like watching a movie called Rambo, right? All you see is whacking and shooting and killing and hitting people. That kind of behavior appeals to some people. So obviously, you know, that type of people are Rajasic and they are attracted towards Chinnamasta, where there is blood flowing all over the place. So, and that affinity will come with your karma. And it will be endorsed by your guru. The guru will know this is the type he wants, so he will endorse it and say, okay, you follow this one. Dasa Mahavidyas are of three types. First one is called Mahavidya, where the Vidya presupposes on certain very difficult sadhanas that you have to do to achieve mantra siddhi in that particular Vidya. Example, Tara or Kali. It presupposes Kali's upasana, that you will go to a smashanam in the middle of the night on new moon day alone, pull a body that is burning in the funeral, in the crematorium, douse it with water, sit on its chest and do japam. Is that possible? In India, it is possible. It still happens. In America, if you try to do that, you will be in jail for desecrating a body. So, that is a Mahavidya. A Samanya Vidya, for example, is Sundari, Tripura Sundari, or Kamala, or Bhuvaneshwari. There are no hard and fast or impossible rituals to perform. You can perform it in your home, in a family setting. There are others called Guhya Vidyas. They can be performed only alone by you. And in the absolute privacy of wherever you can perform the puja. Nobody else is permitted to come anywhere close. So, Mahavidyas, Samanya Vidyas, Guhya Vidyas. Each of them, the affinity towards them comes from Praradva Karmam, what you have done in your previous lives. Please remember, each one of these Vidyas is capable of giving total and complete liberation to the devotee. Complete liberation. So it is up to you to choose whichever one you want. I would like something like Tripura Sundari, Sri Vidyam Shantamurtim. She who will, Lalitam is, the word Lalita means the one who performs Lalanam. That means she who plays with you. She will hold you by the hand and take you into the garden of life, and you say, Amma, I want to play a little bit. She will say, okay, Raja, play, come back. When you come, I'll take you. Now, Mahavidya like Kali will say, you want to go and play? Chatak. Moksha in a second. She's not worried about what will happen to your body or what will happen to your family or anything like that. She's not bothered. She wants to give you moksha and that's it. I used to give this example of you staying on one side of a keyhole, she's staying on the other side of the keyhole. If you ask her to give you moksha, she'll put her hand through the keyhole and pull you through it. What will happen to your body is your business. But you will get moksha. But with Sundari, Bhogasya Mokshasya Karasteva. She'll give you Bhoga and Moksha. Which is more, advisable, or what is the thing that you want? When you are on this earth, you live like a king, and when you die, she will take you with her. Okay. So, and this, if your guru is anybody who is capable of finding out at a moment's notice, by looking at your ojas, he knows this is for him. And he will say, okay, good. It is endorsed by the guru. Guru won't tell you, you go and perform this particular, you do the puja for this particular vidya. He won't do that. You have to tell him. Ask and it shall be given. Okay, we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayya, for taking the time to answer all of our questions today. We really appreciate it and hope to get the opportunity to ask more questions.
Are there more questions?
There are quite a few.
So we will continue this session next week until we exhaust this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ayya.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today. Just a reminder that our temple will be celebrating Kartika Deepam on November 18th, 2021 at 6 p.m. To access all content from prior sessions, please visit srividya.org/AYM-lectures. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us for today's session. A reminder, we will not have yoga session today, so we'll end here. Thank you.